Hello, hello, and welcome back to the She Interviews. Today I am joined by my friend, Dr. Kenael Segal. Hi, Kenael, how are you? I can't hear you. Your microphone turned off again. Oh, there you are.
Can you hear now?
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, perfect. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. So usually I do my interviews on Friday afternoons, and we have the daytime lighting, but we're here late at night doing our thing as moms do, right? Getting it done.
It's usually when I get work done.
Yes, it's like when I get my best work done, right? After it's like all quiet, like 9 o'clock and later, right?
Yep, pretty much.
That's awesome.
How it goes.
So what are you working on now? Tell everybody what you do for a living.
So I'm a doctor of physical therapy, and I specialize in pelvic floor physical therapy. So I treat men, women, and some children as well with pelvic floor dysfunction, and that's all encompassing. It can include a whole bunch of things from bowel and bladder to sexual function or dysfunction.
Yeah, so when I learned that about you, I thought that was so interesting because I've never heard of any kind of physical therapy being so specialized. So how did you become so specialized in that area?
Well, it all started with my own pregnancy. So I have 3 kids, and my pelvic floor abdominal issues started during pregnancy, but it wasn't until about a year or so postpartum that I recognized that the issues I was having that whole time were pelvic floor and abdominal related. And I saw a specialist for it, and that pretty much changed my whole perception on physical therapy. So everyone sees physical therapy as, you get into a car accident or something really bad or traumatic happens to your body and you need help to reteach your muscles how to like walk again. That's what everyone pictures, like physical therapy to help you walk when you can't walk anymore. Or you have an accident and you broke a bone and they teach you how to use that limb or something again. But your pelvic floor and your pelvis is, I consider it a limb, and those muscles need to be retrained. And I'm under the viewpoint that pregnancy and birth itself are traumatic to the body and need recovery.
Hell yeah. I remember after my first pregnancy, I was in
Oh my
such
goodness.
pain in the hospital. And my dad came to visit and he's like, how you feeling? And I'm like, I'm never doing that again. I'm
Oh,
never doing that again. He's like,
yeah.
it's like having a hangover, you say that you're never going to drink again and then you forget about it and you do it again. Anyway, three kids later, he
Yeah,
was right.
right.
But I
Your body
remember.
forgets for a reason. There's a reason why we biologically forget the most intense parts and you remember the like gushy, cuddly stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that totally makes sense because if we remembered it, like we relived it, there's no
Yeah,
way
right.
we would not be having a population issue. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that's okay. So first of all, there's two things that I think are amazing. The fact that you're already in a profession where you're able to specifically treat something, but when you went into the profession, you didn't realize that you would be able to specialize there. And it took something personal in your life to be like, wow, I can use what I do for a living to help in this specific area that I was having a challenge with, and I can help other men and women in that area.
Yeah, I mean, it was challenging because like I said, my issues started during pregnancy and it wasn't until a year postpartum that I even had the help. So between pregnancy, which is, 10 months, 9, 10 months, and postpartum, I had a whole other year. So that was like almost 2 years where I was just kind of like, well, I'm living in this body and it's doing these things that I'm not comfortable with, but no one can help me. And someone could help me and I just didn't know it. So it really was, I mean, what really got why I got into it was not just to help women, but also to educate men, women, and children and other doctors because I had to pretty much convince my doctors that physical therapy was going to help me, not surgery.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, listen, I remember having some challenges when I had my first two afterwards, and nobody told me that these things were going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, nobody tells you ahead of time, like, oh, you might experience this or you might experience that. And, you know, you freak out.
Yep.
You freak
Yeah.
out. So, all right. So how did you, okay, when you said you said nobody could help you and then you were like, somebody could help me, is it that you found another specialist that showed you this, or you just kind of did research through your own profession and found that there was a link?
I mean, I knew because I was in school at the time, I was a student. So I had known about women's health PT, but we didn't learn as in depth as we could have or should have. I mean, it really is a lot of information. So if they had to take time to really teach us everything there is to know about pelvic floor PT, we would be in school another year because it's a lot of information.
Wow.
But I knew about it and I thought, I don't know. I feel like there still was a disconnect. I was like, oh, I'm not sure if I need that. You know, the conditions that we were taught could be treated. Like, I didn't think it was that bad for me. And I think that's what my patients come in saying, like, oh, it wasn't that bad or it's not that bad until it isn't anymore. And then it's worse. And that was pretty much what happened with me. And it took a professor, it took another professor to recognize that you need to see a specialist. And I was like, you think so? You really think so? I'm not sure. And she was like, no, sweetie, you need to go see a specialist. And I was like, well, what's the harm, right? Nothing bad is going to come of it. Either she's going to help me or she's not. And she helped me significantly. So I'm mad at myself for waiting that long to go. But again, I didn't know, you know, it's not something that we all know. You had no idea. I had no idea. And I was in school learning about physical therapy. And I still was just like, I'm not sure if this is what I need. And it totally was.
Wow. So do you ever collaborate with gynecologists or
I
about this
mean, my
education?
patients are coming to me sometimes with a referral from a gynecologist or a midwife or anyone else who works with, you know, birthing women or lactating women or urologists, you know, different types of doctors. So I don't work specifically with them, but I am in contact with them because
So
I
there's
need to be for, you know, with patients.
so there's enough education out there in the medical sphere for people to know that they can refer them to you, is I guess what I was getting at, because you said you had talked to doctors and you were getting answers like surgery.
No, there is not enough education in the medical field. There is not. There are still a good chunk of doctors who don't believe in pelvic floor physical therapy. I'm not really sure what they believe, but I've had patients come in saying that my doctor said this is going to make me worse. I'm like, no, it can't possibly make you worse. It's either not going to help or not do anything at all, right? So you're going to
Right.
have some change, something. But yeah, I've had patients coming and say my doctor said this is going to make me worse. Like that's ridiculous. So
Wow.
let's put that out the window and maybe you should get a new doctor. There really is not enough information in the medical field. They know what they've been taught in school, and if they're not taught that information or they don't learn it, they don't believe in it.
Right.
But
Yeah.
there are a handful of doctors who know about pelvic floor PT, who will support pelvic floor physical therapy and refer patients and send them. And there's more awareness now with doctors, even if they aren't 100% sure about what pelvic floor PT is and if it's going to help them, because they know they can't help a patient who's really asking for help. They're like, well, you know what, you can go try pelvic floor PT and see what happens. So I'm even grateful for that, even if they're just like, well, I don't know if it's going to help you, but go try it out.
Right.
I'm grateful for those doctors, even if they really aren't even completely on board, because the patient ends up coming and they get help and they feel much better.
Okay, let's get a little bit more specific because some of our viewers are probably like, what is this pelvic floor thing? So
Yeah.
what, you know, because you're saying some women could be having these issues and not even realize it, right? It's hard to identify sometimes because of the lack of education. So what are some common symptoms or some things that women experience where this can be an indicator that it might be a pelvic floor issue?
So it depends on where they are in their life. But like I said before, if anyone's having issues with bowel and bladder, so they're leaking or they have trouble even going. So if they're constipated or they're leaking, that's a sign that they maybe need pelvic floor physical therapy because the muscles just aren't coordinating and doing what they're supposed to when they're supposed to. And that goes for men, women, and children. And if they're having any issues with sexual function, either they're overstimulated or they're having pain with intercourse or penetration, or for men, if they're having trouble getting an erection or maintaining an erection, or just have a very weak ejaculation, those are all issues that can be addressed with pelvic floor physical therapy. And then pain as well. So if there's any pain in that region, pretty much from the ribs down to the knees, I consider the pelvis, because it's all connected. The hip bone's connected to the leg bone. So someone's knee issue might actually be a pelvic issue. Someone's back issue might even be a pelvic floor issue. And there's
Stop
no
it.
real way of knowing unless you get checked by pelvic floor PT. So if they go through regular physical therapy and they're just not getting better, and the therapist is like, well, I don't know, we've kind of done everything, I'm not sure what's going on. And they, especially if it's a woman and you're like, oh, I just had a baby. Well, to me, that's a sign that it's probably pelvic floor related and they need to be seen by a pelvic floor PT.
I'm sorry. I'm still on the knee pain. What?
It's all connected.
Wow. Wow. Okay. All right. So this is great. So if somebody is experiencing pain, anybody out there, from your ribs to your knees, and you haven't been able to identify it with any other doctor, this is another avenue to go down and check it out.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. Medicine is just amazing. So you're really opening my eyes here. All right. Because what you do is so fascinating, I keep asking you these questions about your profession, which is fabulous. But I really want to know about you as the woman, the mom, the career mom, because
Yeah.
your story is awesome. So tell us a little bit about your journey through, starting your career, starting a family, the kind of like the timeline and how that all happened.
Oh my goodness. So, oh my God, no one's ever really even asked me how it's all connected. But oh, I've had a long journey. I started off as a teacher. So I was teaching high school science.
Wow.
And then I knew it wasn't where I wanted to be, like long term. It was kind of just to pay the bills, really, unfortunately. But I knew when it was time to get out. And I got out when I knew it was time to go. And I got into physical therapy because I was like, I'll try it. I want to help people. So I went to PT school. But between the time when I was thinking about getting into PT school or applying to PT school and I got into PT school and started, I had my first kid. So I had my first 4 months before I started the program, which looking back was a really horrible mistake, but whatever, I did it. I got through it. If I had waited, who knows when I would have started or completed it. But anyways, I did it. So I was 4 months postpartum when I started PT school. By the time I graduated, I was pregnant, like very, very pregnant with my second. And I graduated. I took my boards 3 weeks before my second was born. Again, looking back at it, it was crazy. She could have come early and I would not have been able to take my boards. Like, who knows when I would have been able to take it, because studying was hard enough with one kid.
Yeah.
Studying with a toddler and a new baby would not have happened or worked. So I'm glad that she waited until I passed my boards to come.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So that's crazy town, right? You have very demanding things going on in your life, and
Yes.
you're seeing the trajectory of your future and your career. And then all of a sudden you have to now dissect your brain to start thinking about becoming a mom and what's that going to look like. And you've never been a mom before, so you have no idea how much time that's going to take.
Oh my gosh.
So what are some things that you remember going through mentally, and if you don't mind sharing a little bit about what was going on in your relationship, like how was the communication about the whole situation?
The first time, my God, it was rough. I will say it was really rough because I was a new mom. I didn't know what to expect. And also I was a grad student, and grad school is not easy. And it's not just like, I'm getting my master's in education, not saying that that's not difficult, but it's physical therapy. Like, physical therapy is up there with like I mean, medical school is just 1 year shy of medical school or even chiropractic school. It's really intense. It's 3 years of intense learning, and pair that with being a new mom. That was probably the most challenging ever. The most challenging times of being a mom, because I was postpartum and dealing with all the postpartum hormones and anxiety and breastfeeding and sleep issues and teething and sick baby. I was dealing with all of it, plus grad school with a whole bunch of early 20-year-olds who were going out and partying every weekend, and I'm like, I've had my party days. I'm done. I'm a
Yeah.
mom. I don't do these things. So
Right.
it was rough. And the first year, I mean, the first full year of PT school, I have absolutely zero memories. I don't remember because I was in such a fog because I didn't sleep. Like, I also had the worst sleeper in the world. So when he finally went to sleep, maybe around 10 o'clock, that's when I would like sit down with my computer and go like, okay, now I can finally study and do my homework and whatever it was, projects that I needed to do. And he would wake up several times. I mean, maybe every hour, every 2 hours. And by the time I went to bed or finished my work, it was like 1, 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I would have to wake up at like 5 or 6
Right.
and do it all over again. So I got no sleep. And on top of all the hormones and stuff, I remember nothing. I don't even know how I got through that year, but somehow I did. My brain remembered what it needed to. And it wasn't even like I was coasting and barely getting decent grades. I was getting like good grades. So I was like, I don't even know where this is coming from.
So do you feel like you're almost in a sense on autopilot? Like during this whole time,
Absolutely.
did you ever feel like maybe this isn't the season of life for this? Maybe I should hold off? Or I mean, because you just seemed
I
like
never
you plowed
thought that.
through. You never
No, I never thought that. And I didn't want to stop because for me, it was like, if I stopped now or took a break, it's not like it's going to get easier. And then what happens when we're ready to have a second? Then am I going to do the same thing? Am I ever going to finish school? So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to power
you
through.
dug your heels in
I did.
because you really wanted this.
I did. I had to finish.
That's awesome. Well, congrats. I mean, I feel like this is when we have these stories as moms, it's our version of like the Navy SEALs or something. You ever, right? Like we have our own hell weeks and
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Oh man. All right. Well, awesome. So what I'm hearing here in this story is we have definiteness of purpose, right? You knew what you wanted to accomplish. You didn't know how you were going to accomplish it, but you knew you wanted to accomplish it.
Yeah.
And you kind of just took it day by day
Yep.
and did it.
I did. I still live day by day with 3 kids, like I make very fluid plans, and half the time it never goes the way it should, but I know an end goal, right? I have an end goal, and however we get there, whenever we get there, it just is what it is. But I knew with school it had to be, it had to be done because it's not like maybe we go to the beach or maybe we don't go to the beach. It's like I'm putting in a huge financial risk into this, and I had left a career of teaching to not get paid for 3 years to go through this program. So I came out in the negative just because I left a career where I was getting paid and didn't get paid for several years, and also took out loans to go to school. So I had to finish.
Right. So you also saw the investment.
Yeah.
But now that you've come out the other side, I don't want to say the other side because it's never, there's still kids and everything going on. But you came out the other side of like you now are into your career.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're now in your purpose, like walking in your purpose?
I think so. I mean, I really do enjoy helping other women, um, teaching the whole community about pelvic floor PT and and all that good stuff. So yeah, I mean, there is a payoff. It has paid off, I will say. It's been nice to do what I made my plan to do, right? Like I came out wanting to help other women. Now I also help men, and now I also help children, and I have my own practice. That was also something that I wanted to do, like way down the line. I was thinking like, okay, maybe in a few years after graduation, I'll start my own practice. Less than a year, I'd already had my practice up and running. It just worked out that way. So things happened the way I wanted them to, but also faster than I intended.
That's fantastic. So now that you have that up and running, and I mean, I know things are a little wonky with COVID, but let's just put COVID aside for a second. Now that you have your business up and running, how is the day-to-day with having your 3 kids? I mean, have you found that balance? I mean, a few things that I wanted to talk to you about was the running theme of self-care, right?
Yeah.
So have you found that balance? Do you have mom guilt? You know, because what I find is like people that have mom guilt are still have not mastered their schedule and how to find that balance.
Yeah.
And people that have been able to master that don't feel that mom guilt. They feel peace. They might have hectic lives, right? It doesn't make it any easier. It doesn't mean that we're like, you know, sitting and have little umbrellas in our drinks and are just like lounging every day. But it just means that we have a peace knowing that everything is in its right place in a sense.
Yeah, you know, right now, because of COVID, things are not the way they normally are. But let's step back maybe a year or even 2 years, when I was like, things were really, really well. I had 2 children, I had my practice. People knew who I was and where I was, and I was doing really, really well. I actually needed help at the time, but I was a one-woman show. I was doing everything all by myself. And it became a routine. You know, the kids would go to school or daycare, and I would go to work. I'd see patients, I'd pick them up, and you know, we did that daily, and it was a really good routine. But I will say it was also really hectic, and I did neglect self-care, and I was really tired. I really did. Like I said, I enjoyed helping men and women, and I just really enjoyed helping people and still do, but it was really hectic. And I recognized that I had to take time for myself. So I started blocking self-care days. And literally I put it on my calendar, self-care day, and I would take the day off and I would just do nothing.
How often would you do this?
I started doing it once a month, and then I was like, I need more than that. So I would do it twice a month. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to go all the way and do it weekly. So weekly, I started blocking a day for myself where I would just do whatever I wanted to do. And it turned into like, oh, I'm going to get a massage that day, or I'm going to go to the spa. So I really started to do a lot more for me. And I started exercising regularly more. I mean, part of what I do is exercise. I teach people how to exercise safely and how to exercise to heal themselves. And I wasn't practicing what I preach. You know, teachers are not the best at following directions. As a former teacher, I'll say that. And PTs and doctors and nurses are not the best at taking care of themselves. So it just is what it is. But I really started to practice what I preach. So I started exercising more. I started meditating regularly. I started doing things for me. I went to the spa. I got my nails done, and I didn't feel guilty about any of it.
You didn't feel guilty, and nothing else suffered.
No, exactly.
Right?
No. The one thing I wish I did was like travel more. And I did start making plans. Like I started prepping my family because I still have a really young family. And I started prepping them like, okay, I'm going to go away for a whole day. And then it was going to progress to like the whole weekend. And it was really in preparation for a mom vacation.
I love it.
It didn't happen, but I was prepping them for it.
Hey,
all intentions of getting back to that.
That's awesome. This is like music to my ears, because I think as women, when we hear another woman giving themselves permission to take that day, and the fact that they're saying, listen, nothing is suffering because I took care of myself. Nothing else is suffering. Everything else is fine. The world didn't collapse. And I think that when we hear another woman, especially someone that's successful like you, giving permission to themselves, it helps us give ourselves permission to do that too.
Yeah. And I did speak with a lot of friends about it, about this need to like take some time off, and we were all like, we need some time off. We need some time off. And I'm like, why aren't we taking time off? I don't understand. Like, we need to do that. Like, we actually need to schedule time off for ourselves. And and I my friends and I, we really started discussing this like seriously. And I actually did go away with one of my friends who we were talking about this like mom vacation, and we went away for a whole weekend. It was like an extended weekend, and we were just like, bye. Like, we're out.
That's awesome.
And we planned on doing another, but now it's COVID.
So what does your husband say when you do these days? Did you feel like you had to ask permission, or did you feel like you had to talk to him about it before saying, hey, I'm going to take a personal day once a month? And
Yeah.
or did you just do it?
No, initially I felt like I had to ask permission, and I didn't, and I wasn't, because I was just like, "Oh, he's not going to understand." But it got to a point where I couldn't function anymore. And I was like, I am exhausted. I need a break. And, I'm working outside of the home too. You're working outside of the home. I'm working inside of the home, but I'm responsible for like the majority of the domestic care. Like, I need a break from that too. So he got it.
What does your husband do?
He just works as I just say he's what's the word now? I'm forgetting, because he was in the army, so he's a civilian now.
Okay.
He's just a regular civilian. He's a supply chain, so he works corporate.
Okay, corporate.
Okay. It's different I think it's different for dads and for men. When they leave the home, they're thinking about whatever it is they're doing. But when mom leaves the home and she's working, she's thinking about the kids, because what am I making for dinner today? What time do I have to pick up the kids? Like, we don't turn that off. We can't turn that off. But dads are lucky. They don't have to think about things like that. So I think he did understand that I needed to have these days, and he allowed me to have the days, or I just took it anyway, even if he wasn't going to. But it got to the point where he would gift me days at the spas or things like that, because he started to realize like, okay, this is what's going to make her happy. And if I'm happy and I'm taken care of, my cup is filled, and I can give to everyone else.
Yes, he understands the saying, happy life, happy wife, or happy wife, happy life, happy wife, happy life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, and it goes the other way around too, right?
Yep.
But I think men, and I hate to just generalize men and women, but I feel like when men need time for themselves, they kind of quietly do it and don't really make a thing about it.
Yep.
Where women, like when we want to take time for ourselves, it's like this big thing. Like,
yeah,
we have to make an announcement. We have to, and I would really love for us to not have to feel that it has to be this big thing.
Right. Yeah, it should just be normal. I mean, even the other day or last week, I said to my husband, I was like, I'm planning a trip. I don't know where or when, but I'm going to plan a trip. He's like, you're just going to leave? I'm like, yeah, I just got to go.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go.
Yeah. I mean, everyone needs that. So that's amazing. So anyone that's listening, take this as your permission to figure out what you need and get it for yourself, because it really is true. When you're feeling at peace, you're able to share that peace with everybody else.
Yeah. And I tell my patient, like, part of my motto in my practice is you can't take care of other people unless you take care of yourself. And you have to teach that to your children. You can't just give. Like, at some point, you're not going to have anything to give anymore. And then everyone is okay. But what about you? You have to take care of yourself, and you have to think about yourself. So I practice what I preach. That's
fantastic. I love that. So, looking into the future, and I know it's tough to do because of COVID, but let's just pretend COVID is not a thing. When you're looking at the future of your business and where you want to take your business in relation to your family life, what's kind of the picture that you have? Because one of the things that I noticed about you is like, you're very purposeful.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you can share a little bit about when you think about the future, what are the kind of things that you think, and how do you take steps to move towards that direction?
Yeah, so, when I had this big picture plan for my business before COVID, it was I would have this practice where I would help men and women. And I added on Pilates. So I got certified in Pilates. I have machines and equipment. And my plan was to have like this go-to place where people would go to for physical therapy and for wellness, because at the end of the day, like, it's wellness that I really wanted to focus on, because if you're well, you're not going to need physical therapy. And as much as I enjoy physical therapy, I just want you to be well. So even when I treat patients in PT, I'm giving them things that they should know, and tools like, hey, this is going to come in handy when you're like in your 50s and 60s and forever. Because I
Yeah.
don't want you to come back, as nice as it is that we have this relationship. I don't want you to come back needing PT. If you want to come back for wellness just to maintain everything, that's great. So I really saw my practice as a place where people come to be well. And if they needed PT, it was there for them. But I had hoped that I would be able to step back, because I was a one woman show for so long. I was hoping that I would be able to step back and really be there more for my kids. I have three of them. So I didn't
Right.
want to like miss anything. And I don't feel like I missed anything, because my schedule really was around them. So
Yeah.
I didn't see anyone until I dropped them off. I didn't work late. I worked between school hours. So even at first, when I was like, oh my God, I'm going to see people between 9 and 2 or 9 and 3, like no one's going to come. But you know what? My schedule was full. So I stopped worrying about that. And I did what I had to do, what was best for me and my family. But like I said, I was hoping to sort of step away from that a little bit by getting some help, so that I can be with my family even more and do all the things that I wanted to do. Like, I would love to travel. I wanted to do that by myself, but I'd also want to travel with my children, because I want my whole family, really. I want them to see that this tiny bubble that we live in is just that, a
Yeah.
tiny bubble, and it's much larger than they thought. Because I I have family in Canada, so I visit Canada often. I grew up in Jamaica, so I know what it's like to live in a third world country. And I
Right.
know how privileged we are living here with all this convenience, but they don't know that. And my husband was in the military, so he's lived all over the place, and he served 2 tours in Iraq, so he knows what it's like, and he traveled Europe as well, so he knows what it's like. And I want my children to know that, because I feel like you just raise different people who know that things are not always as bad as it seems. I mean, like first world problems, like at the end of the
Right.
day, it's really not that big of a deal. And I don't want them to have tantrums and fits over little things, because I want them to remember that,
Put it into
these
perspective.
people, yeah, these people live like this and they're happy. And happiness is not about how rich you are and or any of that stuff. I just don't want them to be materialistic. So I would hope, I still hope that one day we can travel and they can see the world and grow up to be very well individuals.
Yeah, so now you've got your business in a place where you've built a brand, really. You've
Yeah,
built a brand, you've built a mission, and now you want to expand it to the point where it can operate with or without you.
absolutely.
That's the next phase. I love it.
That's
So
it.
you're gonna have to come back and give us an update as things build. Of course, we're gonna give you time way past COVID, because that's just got everybody all
Oh my
messed up right
God,
now.
that just threw everyone for a loop. But you know what? Everyone's been really, really creative and people have been finding ways around it. So I'm looking forward to, next year my business might be completely different. And that's okay. I'm totally open to that, because this is a second career for me. So let's just see where it goes.
I love that attitude. So you're still planning, but you're open to whatever is going to be thrown your way. It might change your
Exactly.
course.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Kenael, before we sign off, is there one piece of advice that you can give to moms in a period of their life that you went through, that you really learned and grew, like whether it was when you were going through school with young children, or maybe a point in your life right now with your business? What kind of advice could you give to us?
I mean, to wrap everything up, I would say ask for help. That was one thing that I didn't do very well in the beginning because I was afraid of getting the answer of no. And but now, even if I get a no answer, I'm like, well, I'll just ask someone else until I get the help. And if I'm not getting the help from the people that I ask, I sit down and I'm like, well, I need your help. So you tell me what I need to do so that you can help me.
I love that. I love that.
Because
I
I
love
just
that. I
need
love
help. I
that.
can't do any of this by myself. And the society that we live in, here in the US, like it's not like other countries where your whole family lives like right there,
Right.
if not in the same house. So you always have help. I feel like here we're just always by ourselves and we have to figure everything out by ourselves. And we're not meant to raise children or families like this. So ask for help. I didn't do that enough early. And now I'm just like, I need help. Who's gonna help me?
I love that so much. Kenael, you've given us so many pearls of wisdom from, having definiteness of purpose and sticking to it. If you want to be a career mom, don't feel guilty, get through it. You're going to have some hard times, but get through it.
Yep.
So, putting in self-care and not feeling bad about that. You definitely need to have that self-care. And then also asking for the help and not being a mom martyr, right? Like we don't have to do everything ourselves. No. And those are just some great things to leave us off with. So thank you so much for spending some time with me this evening. And I hope we get to chat soon. Everybody, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time on the She Interviews.
Thanks. Bye.